Some houses feel empty, but sometimes they're not empty at all. You think you're alone until you notice the corners. The corners that weren't there before. The corners that hold something, someone, watching. Tonight's story is about a house that isn't just walls and floors. It's a trap. A place where the shadows aren't yours and something waits in every corner. Keep your lights on. You might not want to blink. I've lived in this house for almost a year. It's nothing special. Small, quiet, tucked away behind a few oaks that block the streetlights. It's the kind of place you'd think you would feel safe, but that night, it didn't. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when I first noticed him. At first, I didn't recognize what I was seeing. Just a shadow, I thought. Thrown, long and thin, across the wall. The lamp in the corner flickered a little, and the silhouette seemed to stretch unnaturally. But then I realized, it wasn't the lamp. It wasn't the shadow of anything in the room. It was something else, tall and thin, standing perfectly still in the farthest corner of the living room. The kind of figure that makes your stomach flip without moving a muscle. He wasn't leaning, crouching or slumping, just standing there like he'd always been part of the furniture. I blinked, and he didn't. I froze, the phone slipping from my hand, clattering softly against the couch cushion. I didn't move for a moment, just staring. He stayed in the corner, unmoving. The way the dim lamp light caught him made it hard to see details. No face, no clothes, no discernible features, just a black humanoid silhouette. I told myself it was a trick of the light. I told myself I was imagining it. I've seen shadows play weird tricks before, twisting across walls, shapes that look like people when nothing's really there. So I stood up, careful not to move too quickly. I circled the room, checking behind the couch, the small bookshelves, the corners of the ceiling. Nothing and no one. When I looked back at the corner, he was still there. I wanted to run, but my feet felt heavy. My throat felt tight. I remember thinking, maybe he's a neighbor's kid playing a prank. But the windows were all locked, the doors were all locked, and the street outside was empty. I sat back down, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. Tried to focus on my phone, tried to ignore the feeling of being watched. And then I noticed the shadows on the floor. They weren't right. They didn't match the furniture. They stretched and bent toward him, as if the darkness itself was moving around him, creeping toward the center of the room. I don't know how long I sat there, staring. Minutes, hours. Time felt wrong. Eventually, I forced myself to lie down on the couch. I kept the lamp on, thinking that if I kept it bright, maybe I could convince myself there was nothing there. But I slept with one eye open, and when I woke up, the first thing I saw, the first thing my brain registered, was him, standing in the corner. Morning sunlight pouring in. Everything else, ordinary. And yet, he was still there. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared back at him. That's when I realized something horrible. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't trying to scare me. He wasn't going anywhere. The next night I started noticing him everywhere. It began subtly. I'd be in the kitchen pouring a cup of coffee, and a corner of my vision would catch a shadow stretching across the far wall. I'd spin around, heart hammering. Nothing. Then I'd glance back and he'd be there, still watching. By midnight, I couldn't move through the house without seeing him. Every corner I passed, the living room, the hallway, the doorway to the bathroom, he was standing there, always perfectly still, always just at the edge of my vision. And somehow, every time I looked back, he had moved. It didn't make sense. I was the only one in the house. There were no mirrors that could hide him and reflect him wrong. No furniture that could throw the shape across the walls. I tried to tell myself it was my mind playing tricks, but the panic was real. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind through the cracked window felt amplified, like he could hear me thinking. I started marking the corners with bits of tape and sticky notes. Living room corner, hallway corner, bathroom corner. By the third night, the tape wasn't enough. I came home after work to find small smudges on the walls where I'd never touched them. Long, dark streaks that weren't paint or dust. They led from one corner to another, almost like they were following a path. And I saw him in every corner I looked at. Not just one, all of them. At the same time. I froze. My pulse shot into my throat. I tried moving, trying to see if it was a trick of the light, but no matter where I looked, there he was, each figure standing taller, darker, and closer. The corners felt alive, like they were watching me, waiting. I started hearing the softest sounds at night. Footsteps, too quiet to be mine. Whispering that didn't form words but felt urgent. Something breathing in the shadows. I stayed in the living room that night. Lights on, door locked. I didn't sleep. Every time I blinked, a corner of the room seemed to stretch, elongate. And when my eyes opened, there he was, closer than before. I didn't know how long I sat like that. Minutes, hours, maybe until sunrise. By the next morning, I realized something else. He wasn't just standing in the corners. He was watching me everywhere I went. I could feel it. I could feel the weight of him pressing down from every shadow, every nook of the house. And that's when I started to understand the truth. This wasn't a house I lived in. It was a cage. I haven't left the house in 3 days. I don't think I could, even if I wanted to. Every time I walk toward the front door, the hallway stretches, literally stretches. The corners bend inwards, the walls narrowing around me like the house itself is breathing. I tried once, running straight for the door, but no matter how far I moved, I never seemed to get closer. And when I looked back, he was there, in every corner. I can't tell if it's still one of him or if there are more now. They look identical, the same black silhouettes, each standing perfectly still, their heads tilted just slightly, like they're listening, like they're waiting. At first, I thought maybe if I ignored them, they'd fade. I stopped looking at the corners. I closed my eyes when I walked past them. I even turned off the lights, hoping darkness would swallow them whole. It didn't. When the lights went out, they glowed, faintly, pale silhouettes, like a negative image burning into the air. I could see them even with my eyes closed. I could feel them moving closer, step by step, their presence vibrating to the floorboards, through the walls. I started counting how many corners there were in the house. 4 in the living room, 4 in the bedroom, 2 in the hallway. 10 corners in total. Now, there are 11. The wall in my bedroom split last night. Not like it cracked. It opened, widening just enough to form a new corner I'd never seen before. And he was standing in it, his shape pulsing slightly, like he was breathing for the first time. I haven't slept. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see him closer, standing over the bed, the edges of his shape flickering like smoke. Sometimes I hear him whisper. The voice sounds wrong, too deep, like it's coming from behind the walls. He says my name, over and over. I tried calling for help earlier tonight. My phone wouldn't dial. The screen glitched, the text distorted, until every line of it just repeated the same phrase. Don't turn around. I dropped the phone. I didn't move. Then I realized something. It wasn't the phone typing that. It was a reflection. Behind me, in the screen, I saw a shape, taller than before, filling half the room. The corners aren't corners anymore. They're doorways, and they're all open now. If you find this, if you hear this, do not look into the corners of your house, because once you see him, he stares back at you. I thought it would end if I stayed awake. I thought I could ignore it, but the corners, they don't forgive. I can feel him even when I close my eyes. I can see the shapes of him stretching across the walls, pressing closer with every breath I take. Some houses aren't empty. Some houses wait, and some watch. So if you ever notice a shadow that doesn't belong, or a corner that wasn't there before, don't turn around, because once you see him, you'll never ever be alone again.